Hey, it's Lisa. Welcome to the Real Money Podcast, where money is emotional before it's mathematical. And in this season, we've spent a ton of time talking about things that are happening in the money industry and adjacent to the money industry that are disrupting the way that we live, the way that we work, and the way that we think about our health, our wealth, and our careers. Today's a solo episode, and I'm going to talk about what it really means to be rich as defined by me, and where I see the money world moving as it pertains to women. I'm going to share with you some powerful statistics about the status of women today, and we are on the eve of my 46th birthday. I started this show a few years ago because I didn't feel like when I went on to money podcasts, the real conversations were being had. And if I'm being honest, looking back then with what I know now, is that I felt like there was a lot of bullshit and a lot of conversation about the topic of money. And where my goal was with this podcast was to help fill the gap of having real, meaningful conversation for women just like me. I'm a blue collar girl. I grew up on a dirt road in the outskirts of Las Vegas. Now I know Las Vegas is huge today, but 46 years ago, it was a small town still. And it is still predominantly a blue collar kind of town. Things have changed a lot in the world, and in Las Vegas, for me, I've had the privilege of seeing this city grow up, and I've grown up alongside of it. But when it comes to money conversations, being a blue collar girl, I talk about these things in my book. You've heard about it before, but in this one-on-one solo episode with you, I thought I'd get even more real with you. I was noticing some things being in the money industry and conversations that were being had in the money industry that I just didn't resonate with. And what we're getting feedback from over and over again from our listeners in this podcast is that it's real, it's approachable, it's dealing with the emotional side of money. And my hope is that it's continuing to disrupt old patterns, old systems, and old paradigms that are no longer serving us and specifically haven't been serving women for a really long time. So I gave this talk at the Take the Lead event it's November, and that event was October 9th, 2026. And in this talk, which I'm going to share with you today, we've got some really powerful statistics that talk about where women are going when it comes to money. And I am here for that conversation, but not exclusively for women, because what we know is that women, we need men. Men, we need women. This is not a only for women conversation. This is from a woman's perspective, where we're at and where we're headed and what needs to happen for the balance of the world to return to whole out of a male-dominated paradigm. That is what we're leaning in today. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. All right, so statistically, here's what we've seen happen in the last year. The financial landscape for women reveals a stark reality that demands our immediate attention. $31 trillion of assets controlled, yet most women would report that they don't feel wealthy. Well, 31 trillion is great, and that's growing by the day. We're in the middle of the greatest wealth transfer. A lot of that wealth is going to come to women, but it's going to come to women disproportionately. The haves still have. It's still the top 5% of people who are going to inherit the majority of this wealth. Think Warren Buffett, he's 98 years old. That money is going to pass down generations, but it's going to pass down to the generations that are already wealthy. So yes, more money is coming to more women in this decade more than ever before. And yet it's still coming to women disproportionate. And I've got some more statistics that we need to think about and communicate about. And if you're listening to this, I want to know what you're thinking. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. Let me know what you're thinking. How does this resonate with you? And the ultimate question for you by the end of this episode is, what are you willing to challenge yourself with and do about it? Because in real money, that's my goal, is that you come here, you learn, you get new perspective, and you take it back out into your world and you take action, because that's where real change happens. Not just by listening to this episode, but by taking it in, digesting it, and then deciding for yourself what you're going to do about it. And I'll have some opportunities along the way in this episode for you to imagine what steps you could take in my world to continue this work with me. 23% of women feel confident about what they're doing with their money. Of the 4 billion women on the planet today, only 23% feel confident. Where are you in the mix? 70 to 80% This is the number. This is the percentage of women who will manage money independently at some point in our lives because we live longer than men. That's not changing. So 70 to 80% of us are going to independently own money at some point in our lives. 23% of us feel confident about money, and $31 trillion is being controlled by women, and most women don't feel wealthy yet. What is going on? What is going on? Well, from my perspective, we've been taught predominantly by male constructs, and we are bombarded by messages of how we are not enough, which then permeates right into our relationship with money. We must have a new framework. We must step into 2026. We must step into these new decades coming before us. We must, as women, step into new framework and new paradigm when it comes to money. And I'm going to talk about what that framework is today, or what I believe it should be, and the mission that I'm on to help change this conversation, to help women have more money, more success, more power, more control, more healing, so that the world wins. Because when women have more money, the world wins. We have statistics that back that up over and over and over again. And I know you're with me, and that's why you're here in the podcast. So let's stop for a minute. If this conversation is important for you to have, share it out with someone that you love. Share it out with a woman that you love. Let her know what you're listening to. Let's keep the conversation going in your own community, in your own sisterhood, in your own network. That's how this work grows and expands and evolves when we do it together. Here's another statistic. As of January 2025, just as of January 2025, it's November 4th that I'm recording this episode. So in the last 11 months, we've had over 200,000 women leave corporate America. Women of color, and I've seen this statistic, women of color, over 300,000 women of color have left corporate America over the last few years. Corporate America is hemorrhaging right now. People are leaving, predominantly women are leaving corporate America. Why? Why are we leaving? Maybe you're listening to this and you're considering leaving. Maybe you're listening to this and you've already left. Why did you leave? Well, what I know from the conversations I'm having with women is that we're done. We're fed up. We're over it. We don't want to be controlled anymore. We don't want to be told what to do. We want our voice to be heard. We want a seat at the table. We don't want to have to grind to get there. We're just done with it. We're done with the rules and the regulations and the nonsense that's happening in corporate America right now. Well, where are we going? If thousands and thousands of women are leaving corporate America and we're in the middle of a government shutdown, more people are being furloughed, more people are leaving, with or by choice or not choice, they're still leaving. Where are we going? Well, what we're not doing is we're just going home to stay at home. That's not happening. This one statistic backs that up. 49% of new businesses in 2024 were started by women. 9%, half of the new businesses that were started by people in America were started by women. So we're not leaving the workforce. We're leaving corporate America and we're starting our own companies. Why? Well, most women will tell you they want independence. They want freedom. They want to do things on their own. They don't want to have to report to a narcissistic boss. They are tired of working patriarchal dynamics that are not working for them. Why are you leaving? Let us know what's going on with you. That's what we're here to do, is have that conversation, open, honest, and loudly. Women and Money Report Card. This is global and regional breakdown. Some of these stats we're going to put into the show notes today, so you can pop into the show notes and grab some of these stats, but I'm going to read them off for you. Globally, 33% of global wealth is held by women today. This is from the Bank of America Institute. This includes financial assets and overall wealth, 33%. So we don't own the majority of the world's wealth yet. Even though a good amount is coming to us, although disproportionately, it's coming our way. This statistic was about 15% a decade ago, so it's climbing, but still 1/3 of the world's wealth is managed and owned by women. That's it. We're not even at the majority yet. American women is a little bit different, but still we've got a lot of room to grow. And if you go back, I have another episode this was done about women in money and the history of women in money in the United States over the last 100 years. This speaks into that this is a statistic that makes a big difference in our mindset, because less women owned money over a decade ago than they do today, which also means that we have women who are facing real time our own belief system, our own generational patterns, and our own nervous systems to have more wealth, to grow more wealth, to become more independent. There's a lot happening inside of that conversation in my world and in other money worlds where we're confronting mindset head on. And it's going to take some work beyond budgeting for us to be able to get to the other side of this so that the world has 50%, 75% wealth owned by women. What would be different if that was the case? I know that's scary to think. Some guys are like, hold the fuck up. What does that mean for them? Well, we'll never know until we try. But what I do know is that we'll have a healthier world as a result of women having more money. And we've got to lean into that conversation. But the data is clear. We are not yet the owners of the majority of wealth on the planet. We have work to do. Another statistic in global financial assets, 34% of global assets under management are controlled by women. That doesn't necessarily mean owned by women. It just means controlled by women. So let's break this down. This was as of 2023. Global assets under management are controlled by women. That means women are making portfolio and management decisions, either in the industry or independent of the industry and family offices. Women's wealth growth is outpacing the market overall. So more and more money is coming our way. More and more money is coming by our way, but we're still not at the halfway mark. Even though we have half of businesses being opened by women, we still have a ways to go when it comes to ownership and control of wealth. In the United States, women control about a third of the U.S. household financial assets. Large wealth transfer events and demographics will continue to shift this more and more. So still about a third of the U.S. households are being controlled, financial assets are being controlled by women. This doesn't say owned by women, by the way. So we have our hands in it, but to me, control and ownership are two totally different things. It may not be solely in our name, although we're running the decisions around it. And then when it comes to spending money, we know that since the beginning of time, women have spent the majority of money. So it's controlled. Decisions are happening in our fingertips. This is 1/3 of households in America today. And retirement. Women are expected to accumulate only 74% of men's wealth by retirement. Despite equal starting roles, lifetime events widen the gap. What are those lifetime events? Kids, families. Women are still the caretakers in the family. So we will accumulate only up to 74% of men's wealth by retirement because we have gaps. And we have a mindset problem. We have a context problem when it comes to women and wealth. And that's the goal of this podcast and the workshops that I'm doing and the work that I'm doing is to help bridge that gap for women and men alike. U.S. single unmarried adults. Among unmarried adults in 2022, typical single men had $82,000 in wealth versus typical single women, $58,000 in wealth. This is from the Pew Research Center. So there's a big gap. There's a big gap. Why? I'm here to say I think it's mindset. I think it's mindset over anything and everything that we must continue to work past, which is why I'm on a mission to say stop budgeting, because we need, as women, a huge breakthrough when it comes to money and scarcity and holding back and cutting back and not spending money are not the answers. Among the world's richest, women are underrepresented. Only 15 of the top 100 billionaires are women. So yes, on social media, we see that there are billionaire women. We see Taylor Swift. I see you, Taylor Swift. You're amazing. I love you. And yet only 15 of 100 are billionaires. Huge gap. When more money is coming to women, more women control money more than ever, still only a third of the money. And there are fewer female billionaires than there are men. We have work to do. Single women historically own 32 cents of wealth for every dollar that single men own. Why? Well, at this stage in the game, it's not because we're less educated. We're the most educated women on the planet than ever before. You've heard me say this before on the podcast. It's our mindset, y'all. It's our mindset. And I'm going to talk about some ways that you can work on reframing your relationship with money today. And that is what this podcast is about. That is what my world is about. I've got some incredible events coming up next year. You can read my book to get started. I've got women and men coming to me now going, what do we do about this? And I still have some more statistics for you. And I hope that you're in that question too, because it's not going to be budgeting that's going to get us there. Budgeting will get us more of the same conversation, more of the same disparities, more of the same inequities, more of the same control. We have to break through into a new paradigm. And I'm here to help you with that. Status of women in business. So let's talk about women in business. So earlier we talked about how a third of US household assets are being controlled by women, which is different than overall wealth. Not going to get into the total intricacies of that, but statistically, nearly half of all US wealth is now controlled by women. But this is disproportionate. Money sits in all different places. So household finances, it's still 1/3. US wealth is in existence in a lot of different ways, real estate and different portfolios and business ownership and all kinds of ways that wealth is managed and controlled and owned. So half of that is disproportionately controlled by women. And this is a staggering statistic. So when we're talking about women in business, women are leaving corporate America. Women are going to business ownership. So we're leaving corporate America. We're starting businesses. We're becoming entrepreneurs. We're just wanting to figure things out on our own. And yet, less than 3% of venture capital goes to women-owned businesses. We make less. We control less. We have big dreams. We have big visions. We have big goals. And yet 3% of venture capital goes to women. What is up with that? It's got to be mindset. We're more educated. We're more capable than ever before. It's got to be mindset, right? 90% of women will be the sole financial decision maker at some point. So we're rising, but in order to have more, we've got to now start to confront ourselves, confront our mindset. And the statistics go on and on and on and on. But don't be fooled by social media. I'm on social media. You're on social media. You're on CNBC, maybe not, maybe following the world of money and people with money. And you might be thinking to yourself that everyone has money but you, or every woman is running a 7-figure business but you, or everyone has got this figured out but you. But the truth is that that's not the case. And here are some statistics that back that up. There are 14 million women-owned businesses, and only 3 to 5% of them earn over $250,000 annually. 3 to 5% make more $250,000 a year, which means that we have millions and millions and millions of business owners, female business owners, who are making less than $250,000 a year. That's the stat. That's not the reality, or that's not what you see or hear on TikTok or Instagram. But I promise you that there are more women making less money than most, than the other way around. Only 500 women-led companies generate 500,000. So 500,000 of the 14 million are making between $250,000 and $900,000 a year, less than $1 million. 88% of female business owners are still making under $100,000 a year. I hope that when you hear those statistics, you realize that you're not alone in your pursuit and you're not alone in your goals. And there's some real-time reasons why this is happening. And we have to be willing to confront some of those paradigms and make those shifts in order to get to the other side of it. But trust me when I say that if you are not yet at that $1 million mark or that multi-million-dollar mark, you're not alone, because 88% of female-owned businesses are still making less than $100,000 a year. Okay? It's a climb. We've got work to do. Now, if this conversation is triggering you, good. If it's poking on your nervous system, good. If it's getting under the surface of all the things that you've been feeling or seeing or watching or knowing or feeling or hearing out in the world, you're not alone. And what I believe is that the old playbook of money isn't working for women. It hasn't worked for women. Slowly we're making progress. We are making progress, but what would have to happen for us to make faster progress? Well, I think we need to break out of this paradigm of traditional financial advice. This is what I've seen across the board, which is why I'm on a mission to change it. Creates a toxic cycle of guilt, shame, and confusion. It wasn't built for women in the first place. If women stay guilty, if we stay ashamed, and if we stay confused, who has the power still? not us. But when we have clear confidence, one, we can stop relying on financial pundits to tell us what to do, because if we're not confused, if we're confident, if we're not guilty, we're happy. If we're not filled with shame of the choices that we're making and we're clear, we don't need all this financial advice out there from pundits and experts. We can start thinking on our own and have clarity and trust from within. And that's the mission that I'm on. That's what I want for you. So I hope that you approach my world like that. Like, I'm here to share with you what I know. I'm here to share with you and be a guide. But ultimately, the answers come from within. That is deeper level work. And that's exactly the work that we need to have happen in order for us to start thinking for ourselves and taking new action. So here's the system that's broken for women that needs to shift into a new paradigm. Save more. It's the endless cycle of restriction and deprivation. I've been in rooms with financial advisors who are talking about scarcity and fear. You're not going to have enough by retirement. You have to save more. You need this financial product to make sure that you secure and lock in income. Over and over and over again, we're just being fed shame and not enough and scarcity. Here's the second thing that we hear over and over and over again in personal finance: spend less. It's guilt-driven decisions, making you feel guilty about the decisions that you're making that disconnect you from joy. Don't go out to eat, Dave Ramsey says. Don't do it if you're in debt. By the way, if you're in debt, you're an idiot. By the way, if you have credit card debt, you're stupid. Oh, well, you just didn't know any better. You're ignorant. I've heard these conversations come out of the mouths of financial pundits, and it's hurting all of us. So spend less is not a financial strategy. Spending less is not going to get you where you want to go, because the most abundant people that I know on the planet spend happily. They spend joyfully. They don't restrict themselves from pleasure. They don't restrict themselves from vacation. They enjoy spending. They don't hold back. What's different about the financial conversations that are happening on TV, on Instagram, and across the board is you're being told to cut, to save more, which is a less conversation, because if you need more, you don't have enough. Spend less because you're spending too much. We've been hearing this for decades, for hundreds and hundreds of years as women. And budget harder. On my YouTube channel, I've had men yell at me before. Well, it didn't work for you because you didn't work the system, or you're not smart enough, or you didn't work hard enough. Budget harder, try harder. These are shame-based systems that ignore your reality, and all they're designed to do is get ratings and likes. They are not serving you. We've got to shut it down. Shut it down, because there is an alternative. Here's how I believe traditional finance is failing women. It's a budget prison. Budget prison says, stay in these rigid systems, just track your money, track every single dollar, and somehow by magic, with more discipline, more self-control, which presupposes that you don't have either, you're going to get what you want. You'll have millions of dollars in the bank. It doesn't work that way, you guys. It doesn't work that way. There's a shame spiral, self-blame, guilt cycles that keep women small, apologetic, and disconnect us from our financial power. You guys, as a money coach for the last decade, I've had so many women come into me afraid to share the real stuff, afraid to share what they spent. They're afraid to show me the numbers because they think I'm going to shame them or guilt them. Why are they going to think that? Because that's what's been happening for decades about women and money. We've been controlled. We've been shamed. We've been told we have to budget. Women who write books in finance are telling us that we have to do these same things. They're sharing the same old systems, the same old paradigms that's creating slow growth. We're not busting through it. It's hurting us. We've got to stop it. And there's a huge gap. The data supports this between what success is for women versus what it is for men. We got to shut it down. Here's where we start. We have to look at the feminine ways of being with money compared to the masculine ways of being with money. The feminine way of being with money is flow and receiving. It prioritizes alignment, collaboration, and intuitive guidance. It focuses on drawing in opportunities, building sustainably, rooted in inner worth and purpose. It's about being, allowing, and expanding. That is the feminine way of being with money. Compared to the masculine way of money, which we've been taught over and over and over again, emphasizes competition, relentless pursuit, external validation. It focuses on chasing opportunities, controlling outcomes, and often valuing output over process and sustainability. The masculine way of being with money is about doing, striving, and acquiring. And it's hurting all of us. It's hurting all of us real time on the planet today. For us to predominantly be in the masculine way of being with money. It's counterintuitive to the feminine. But what happens when we lean over to the feminine and we talk about being in the feminine way of being with money? Fear. It's fear. It's fear. And also, as women, we have been taught to ignore those feminine ways of being. Men, you have too. And for us to even imagine what it would look like or feel like to have money and to be with money, that is not about doing, striving, and acquiring hypermasculine. It's fear. Because what if we get it wrong? Well, I'm here to suggest that when we have the courage to lean into flow and receiving, which is where safety comes in, by the way, we have to feel safe enough to receive it. And women, our bodies have been violated. Our brains have been brainwashed to think that it's our fault when we're violated. There are so many reasons why we don't feel safe to open ourselves up to flow and abundance. And it's this dis-ease and disconnect between the masculine and feminine when it comes to money that we need to lean right into and bust open and imagine a world where being, allowing, and expanding is the predominant conversation, not just for entrepreneurs, but for people on the planet, because it's more sustainable that way. It's less rigid that way. It's more fluid. It's more fun. And that scares the crap out of a lot of people. It really does. It's time for a feminine model of financial leadership to take shape. It's cyclical, intuitive, it's purpose-driven, it's flexible, and it's collaborative. I'm going to pause there. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the work that I'm doing for women, the future of money and women in the way that I see it and the way that we're creating it in my world real time. Stick with me. We're going to talk about next steps. We have the status of women. We now know the difference between masculine and feminine when it comes to money. And I'm going to share with you all the things that we're going to do about it after the break. All right, so we're back. So what is the future of money for women? Well, more money is coming to women disproportionately. So we have some glass ceilings of our own to break through in order for more women to have more money, regardless of where they are in the framework or structure or hierarchy of money, if you will, on the planet today. But here's what I know. The future of women and money is emotional regulation, values-based spending, and a new wealth identity. Those three things combined, when we work with them together, create a whole new way of being when it comes to money. And women, we are so ready for it. We're so ready for it. Let's talk about each one of those and how they work real time. First, the emotions of money. In my book, Stop Budgeting, Start Living, so I have my book here. You can grab your copy today and we can work through this together in the book real time. I talk about your financial set point. Your financial set point was in play before the age of 7. These are what we call our imprinting years. And in our imprinting years, we learned how to be human beings. We learned how to be little, tiny, walking, talking human beings. And it's all emotional. It's the feelings, it's the stories, it's the beliefs that drive your financial patterns. 95% of the decisions that we make in our money are in the unconscious mind. And that comes from our imprinting years and our modeling years, which is imprinting is 0 to 7. Modeling years is 7 to 14. In my new program, which is a 4-day intensive retreat style program. It's called The Wealth Within. We lean into that. So it's in my book. You can start on that work right now, but it's also in The Wealth Within, which I'm launching next year, where you can get into touch with your emotional relationship with money. There is no way to separate your emotional relationship with money. There is no way to separate logic and figures and facts from emotions. It's impossible. And people who want to tell you that you have to be more disciplined and that you have to control the numbers and track every dollar are ignoring the fact that what happens first is your emotions come into play. Your thoughts and your emotions work together, and real time, seconds and seconds, every single second, they're influencing the decisions that you're making. financially. When you can acknowledge that, then you can begin to work with it. And that's in my money coaching certification that I'm in the process of right now, certifying coaches to learn how to do this with clients real time, which is the emotional release work, which is the breaking through generational patterns work, so that you can begin to work with your emotions, heal the things that you need to heal, work within your nervous system so that you can then clean up and clear out any dis-ease that you have when it comes to your money. If you're listening to Dave Ramsey, if you're listening to Caleb Hammer, you're listening to other kinds of financial experts who don't get this, they're basically telling you that you're fucked up and that it's your fault that you're making the decisions that you're making financially. And it's just not true, because it's a conglomeration of generation after generation after generation, generational mindset that's inherited, that you're listening to this, are being charged with reversing and altering the course of history for generations behind you and generations before you. It is way emotional before it's mathematical, y'all. Way, way, way. You must lean into that conversation. And then we have values-based spending, which is totally different than a traditional budget. A traditional budget is going to work with percentages. It's going to tell you the 60-40-40 rule or the 80-20-20 rule. 80% of your money goes here, 20% goes there. Full stop. What I mean by stop budgeting, I get this question all the time when I'm a guest for podcasts, is what does that mean? What does stop budgeting mean? And also, what does a budget mean to you? And what budgeting means to me is that budgeting is trying to control your every dollar and every cent, not connected to your emotions, not connected to your values, not connected to your priorities, but based on someone else's framework of saying, this is what you should do with your money. And then you have a budgeting, like a budgeting app that tells you that you should only be spending $200 a week on groceries, for example. And then you should only be spending $200 a week on gas. And then you only have $50 a week for entertainment. It's very restrictive. It's very line itemed. And it's also very in the rear view mirror, because when you're traditionally budgeting, you're saying, well, we're planning on spending this, and then we're going to see how we did, which is different from values-based spending, which is aligning your money with what matters to you most first to create your most authentic pathway to get there, which is not following someone else's framework, which is way less mechanical than you think it has to be, which is putting money into a spending account for spending purposes and enjoying it, giving yourself permission to spend. In my world, we spend time breaking these things down so that on the other side of budgeting, we take the budget, we throw it away. We talk about first what's most important to you and what is the vision that you have for your life. It's not that cash flow management isn't important. I'm not saying that in any of my books or any of the work that I do. But cash flow management and cash flow strategy and future forecasting your cash flow is a totally different way of looking at your money as it flows forward into the future than just arbitrarily creating categories and trying to budget thinking that that's going to be the solution to your financial problems and woes, because it's not. Because there are a lot of reasons you have those financial problems and woes, and budgeting is not one of them. Okay? So stop trying to slap a budget onto the bigger problems. And in this work, it takes time, it takes some digging, and it's so, so worth it. Also, wealth and identity go hand in hand. You're going to get more of the same by subscribing to the identity that you have today, or the identity that you have in your past, or the identity that your family has. You're just going to get more of the same. But for those of you who are here because you truly desire to have wealth, first of all, you need to define what that means for you and only you, not as defined by someone else, by a financial advisor, by a financial pundit, by anyone else, but what does wealth mean to you? Specifically for you? What does success mean to you specifically for you? And then let's build a new identity around that. Who is she? Who is she? What is she up to in the world? What does she do on a daily basis? What are the conversations that she's having? True wealth is about who you become, not just what you accumulate. And if you can start in that conversation with your emotions, with your values, with building a new identity for building wealth, you're going to actually become the woman that you imagine becoming. You're not just tracking money for the sake of tracking money. You're not just accumulating wealth for the sake of accumulating wealth. You're becoming the woman that you envision yourself being on the planet today. And we need more of that in the money industry and the money landscape. Okay, moving on. Just a few more things to talk about in today's podcast episode. I hope this has been valuable for you. If it has, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Share this out with someone. Have a conversation with another woman that you know and love today. Talk about the things that are working in your financial life. Talk about the things that are not working in your financial life. Let's keep the conversation going. So here's the new playbook for wealth for women and for people on the planet today. Emotional safety. We have to learn how to create emotional safety. And guess what? Emotional safety does not live in the numbers. You cannot just say that by having $1 million, you're going to feel safe, because for a lot of people, that's actually the opposite. Emotional safety is by creating a secure foundation where you can make clear, confident financial decisions without fear or anxiety. And that requires you to regulate your nervous system. That requires you to heal from your past money wounds and traumas. You're not really blocked from having the future that you want. It's probably that you just haven't clearly and successfully identified it and laid it out for yourself. Aligned financial practices go right into this new playbook for wealth for women. Building money habits that reflect your values, support your authentic vision for success. This is a winning combination with emotional safety. Buckle up, Buttercup. If you have emotional safety and then you have aligned financial practices, you're moving in a new direction. You're not looking in the rearview mirror. You're not needing a budget. Most people in my world stop budgeting. They do track their money. They do look at the flow in and out, but they're not so tight around it. They're not trying to control it so much. Radical responsibility goes right into this new playbook. I talk a lot about this in my new book, Stop Budgeting, Start Living, but you've got to own your financial power completely. If you are blaming someone else for where you are in your life for whatever reason, you are not in a responsible conversation, and that is keeping you playing small. That is keeping you stuck. That is not putting you into a whole, healthy, aligned, and safe conversation when it comes to your money. No one's coming to save you financially. No one's coming to save you in your life. It is your job to do this moving forward, and it's going to take you being in a radically responsible conversation. If you do not know how to do that, come to the Wealth Within. I will teach you how to do that in my 4-day event, to shift from victim, from blaming, from mindset. And trust me, there's a lot of that in the financial world too, in the financial landscape, in the government shutdown. We're seeing it real time of people blaming the government for their problems. People who are radically responsible for their lives and their futures do not blame anyone, including themselves. So stop blaming yourself. Just do the healing work to release and let go and move forward in a new future where you're feeling emotionally safe, aligned in your financial practices, aligned in your vision, in your purpose for life. You're in a radically responsible conversation. And here's the final piece: community and sisterhood. We are not meant to operate alone. We are not meant to do this work alone. With community and sisterhood, and you are all doing this at the same time, real time, that is how real change happens. That's how it's changing in my world. That's how it's happening in my world. And when these things start to work together, life gets really fun, possibilities open up, and you start to live a life that you love, financially and otherwise. That's the new playbook for women and for wealth. Those things get to happen all together for women to bridge the gap financially. We do it together. We do it with love. So we rise together. When women support women, we all rise. Your success creates permission for others to succeed. There is nothing wrong with you having financial success because you give women permission to succeed. Sisterhood matters. There's data that backs this up. Brene Brown's work backs this up. There are co-regulation studies that talk about women co-regulating together when it comes to finances. How cool is that when we can get together? I know this happens in my world. I've got my sisters. We get together. We talk about money. We talk about life. We co-regulate. We support each other. We keep moving forward. We give each other high fives. We tell each other we're awesome. Yes, go make that $1 million. Yes, go make those multi-million dollars. Yes, stretch outside your comfort zone. Social support lowers cortisol and reduces stress, and it speeds up recovery. Social support, you need other people to support you. You should not be on this journey alone. We don't want you on this journey alone. Let me land the plane today in this conversation. So I hope that this has been valuable. I hope these statistics are supportive. I hope that seeing this new paradigm into a feminine paradigm of wealth is helpful. And I want to talk about how I have redefined rich in my own life. In order for us as women of the 21st century in 2025 and beyond to have more, to be seen more, to be hurt less, to be controlled less, in my opinion, we need to redefine the word rich. Because the masculine definition of rich is what? More, accumulation. It's hurting all of us. The feminine definition of rich, for me, is resilience, independence, confidence, and happiness. What would your life look like if you just had the courage to learn how to become resilient, bouncing back from setbacks with grace, with wisdom, building financial strength through every challenge? There will be challenges, but you'll get stronger because of them. There's no failure. There's no more self-doubt. There's no more shame. There's no more guilt. It builds resiliency so that we can keep going. We're independent. We make choices from a place of freedom, not fear, with the confidence to chart our own financial course. We're confident, trusting our instincts and our abilities, knowing we have what it takes to create lasting wealth for ourselves and for others. And we're happy. We're not stressed. We find joy in the journey. We embrace wins, and we create a life that feels as good as it looks. That is my definition of rich. Money grows when we grow, and it matters that we are women. It matters so much that we are women. We are not built to abandon our bodies, ignore our rhythms, and grind ourselves to prove that we belong. It is time for a new paradigm. It is time for a female paradigm when it comes to building wealth, and I'm leading the charge. I'm Lisa Chastain, your host of Real Money. I hope that this conversation was powerful, it was supportive, and that you feel motivated with some clarity on where to look. It's not in the rearview mirror, and it's not by budgeting. We can be real, we can be rich, we can be in charge. And I hope that you enjoyed today's show. Share it out with someone that you know, you love, and you trust. Let's call other women forward into this conversation. Let's break through our glass ceilings. Let's do this work together. Let's empower and inspire each other to have more, to be more, to dream more, because the world needs more of that. I'll see you next time.